Did you see this, Mr. Producer, about Letitia? Oh, my goodness. Letitia is saying, well, wait a minute. We have this on audio, don't we, Mr. Producer? Letitia James says, look, I made a mistake putting Virginia down as my residence. She's a liar. She didn't make a mistake. Why would you put Virginia down as your residence when your residence is New York, and you need to be ultra careful about that? And that's not just the only lie. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. If you pulled that, you wouldn't get away with it. There's absolutely no way. It was a mistake. And year after year, she took the deduction because it was a mistake. Uh-huh. Well, no mistake as far as I'm concerned. Cut one, go.
As you know, we filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump and his family. We secured $454 million.
Yeah, we know the fraudulent judge, the fraudulent case. There was no fraud. Used a statute that was never used in the history of New York. Yeah, we know all about it. Go ahead. I've never seen, and then she's applauded for making comments like this. Applauded. The New York Post got this audio, by the way. Go ahead.
When that case will be decided, this investigation to me is nothing more than retribution. It's baseless.
Well, it's not baseless, and it's not Trump. There's agencies that look into these things, and they referred it to the Department of Justice. I mean, like the first week he came into office or thereabouts. And it's not baseless. In fact, it should be a slam dunk. You said your main residence is in Virginia. It's not. You said you bought a property with your husband. You named your father. There was a 5-apartment unit, and in order to get a preferential rate on your mortgage, you said it was a 4-apartment. Now, the apartment had 4 units when it had 5. Those aren't mistakes. That's called a pattern. That's a pattern. Go ahead.
The fact that on a power of attorney, I mistakenly indicated that I was a state of Virginia, but prior to that, I had indicated to the mortgage broker that, in fact, in bold cap letters, that I am not a resident of Virginia and never will be.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you previously told a mortgage broker in bold capital letters that I am not a resident and never will be. The fact is that subsequent to that, you said you were. Go ahead.
Application, I indicated that I would not live in Virginia and I was not a resident. They just took the power of attorney and they're using that as a basis for
ladies and gentlemen, a power of attorney is not a joke. Being a trustee is not a joke. Being an executor isn't a joke, or whatever it is. These are legal documents. You sign them under penalty of perjury, and they have legal implications. It's that simple. Now, she's supposed to be a lawyer, supposed to be the top law enforcement officer of the state of New York. You don't get to make mistakes like this. Donald Trump, she brags about that case. Donald Trump did everything by the book. All the lenders said that he not only paid, he paid on time. They all said that the estimated value that he placed on his properties were checked by their own people, because you're talking about a lot of money. No, Mar-A-Lago isn't worth $16 billion. It's worth, ladies and gentlemen, it could be $1 billion. That property is massive. It's like 20-some acres. It's right on the Atlantic Ocean in West Palm Beach, Florida. So it's not worth 16 or 18 million. That's preposterous. But they did everything they could to take him down in that case. It's just another one of those cases where they give due process to murderers, rapists, Venezuelan gang members, wife beaters, MS-13 types, but not Donald Trump. He didn't get due process in New York for the civil or the criminal case, period. But that's neither here nor there. It's not a defense in court. It's not a defense to an investigation to say, well, Donald Trump has nothing to do with it. Power of attorney. She just confessed, by the way. She's such an idiot. She just confessed that she did it. Her attorney ought to advise her to keep her big fat mouth shut, but she's incapable of it. Power of attorney was never used to determine my eligibility for a mortgage for my niece or a home in the state of Virginia. So she says. And so she's on the run, so to speak, on the waddle, I guess. And the fact of the matter is she's got a lot to answer for, and more than just this. I just named off the top of my head 3 or 4 of the instances in which she committed, allegedly, tax fraud. That's what it is, and mortgage fraud. These are serious felonies. They're real felonies. They've been charged, and, people are going to prison for these things, unlike what she charged Donald Trump with, some bogus fraud statute never ever used, and used against him in front of a judge. There was no jury trial, who not only is a lunatic, a moron, by the way, but obviously a partisan. Terrible partisan. I want to play something to you, and it's actually going to be the first time I listened to it. I saw it on Newsbusters, but it piqued my curiosity. I mentioned we're going to have our friend Stephen A. Smith on the program, but not about this. I want to talk about other things. This isn't his burden to carry. But Ryan Clark, I've noticed Ryan Clark was a very good football player, very articulate gentleman, certainly knows his sports. But there always seems to be an instance to me, and I don't watch it all the time. I catch it here and there, but every time I seem to catch it, he brings up some racial element of something. Don't ask me to tell you what it is. I don't even remember. It goes in one ear and out the other. In fact, most of this race stuff with me goes in one ear and out the other, particularly when we're talking about sports. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Anyway, I want you to listen to Caitlin Clark. There's two of the greatest players, but there are other great players in women's basketball, is Clark and Reese. Angel Reese. Apparently they don't like each other. And I saw the video where Clark fouled Reese. And you have these intentional fouls. And some of them are rougher than others. Look, I grew up in Philadelphia. I used to go to the 76ers games. Back then, you could walk up the court side. People didn't bother you. People actually were very, well, they behaved themselves. It didn't mean they weren't loud. I was loud and so forth. But you didn't call people names. You didn't mock the players. You weren't looking for trouble. You were having a wonderful time. And the players would come up to courtside, and I was a young guy. As I say, I went many times to the Spectrum. And, Will Chamberlain back then, he would sign it. Hal Greer, all these guys, Wally Jones, Chet Walker, Bill Cunningham. I really admired and looked up these players, and they were massive. I'm a kid. I'm like, holy mackerel. One's bigger than the next. But just nice people. And you were nice to them because that's how you were raised, not to be an a-hole. Now, they didn't earn the money that they earn today, but they were wealthier than most, but not crazy wealthy. I remember that Will Chamberlain left the Sixers. He went to the Lakers, which was a heartbreak for those of us who were in Philadelphia. But they were going to pay him, or did pay him, I think, $350,000, maybe $250,000, something like that. That was massive at the time. In fact, even when I was a young man, maybe 18, 19, 20, I remember the Philadelphia Phillies, they played, they were paying, at the time, which seemed like a ton of money, but it wasn't a ton of money. Steve Carlton, folks like that. I think he had a multi-year contract for $3.5 million. One of the greatest pitchers ever. But today, it's hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't begrudge it. I'm just explaining it's a different attitude. In fact, I went to a card show a couple of months ago with my grandson, our grandson and our daughter. And there I see guys I used to watch play football and baseball. They're signing, helmets. They're signing bats. They're signing this. They're signing that. I think it's $100 and some. They split it with the vendor. I thought to myself, my God, you were just one generation too late. These guys. Mean Joe Green was there. And by the way, he's mean. But there were others there, too. And who were actually quite nice. And I said, good Lord, here they are signing because they don't, they didn't make the money that these guys make today. But in any event, coming full circle, here's Ryan Clark. He's an ESPN analyst, hat-tip newsbusters. I'm going to listen to this without interruption with you for the first time, and I'm going to give you my take on this because this is creating quite a stir out there. Cut 20, go.
Caitlin Clark is the most important player in the WNBA.
Now, for those of you who don't know, and many of you don't, Caitlin Clark is white. To me, none of this matters, but apparently it matters to everybody else. And Angel Reese is black. Okay? Let's start over. Go.
Caitlin Clark is the most important player in the WNBA. And a ton of her fandom has come along with some racial bias or some racial pieces to why people love her so much. And so now if you're RG3, so you've had a conversation. You haven't been able to do that because in both of your marriages, you've been married to white women. You haven't had opportunities to have those conversations to educate you on what they're feeling, what they're seeing when they think of a young Angel Reese. And the whole time that he's mimicking Angel Reese and bobbing his head and moving his neck while he's doing this whole piece, his wife is in the back, amening and clapping. And so to me, it's just another situation that now this young lady has to deal with. When I worked with RG3, he would make all of these sort of corny jokes about milk and how much he loved it and how important it was. And he always points out on social media the color of his wife's skin, as if the color of her skin is what makes her special, as if the color of her skin is what makes her.
You know what? I've heard enough already. Why are you attacking the guy's wife? Okay, she's white. I got it. Barkley's wife is white. You know, we celebrate the fact in this country that we have really a significant number these days of interracial marriages. I don't understand this attack. What's he trying to say? That RG3, he grew up a black man. He was a black child. He grew up in a black family. You're telling me he doesn't understand the culture? Of course he understands the culture. Maybe he just doesn't like or care for Angel Reese. I have no idea. But I would never bring up somebody's wife. Ever. I never have. I've been doing this almost 25 years. Unless the wife wants to be a public person, unless the wife is in politics, unless the wife says a bunch of stuff out there that is really, you know, trying to draw attention or something like that, like Dr. Joe Biden. But RG3's wife, it's his second wife, his second white wife. To me, these are blatantly racist comments. They absolutely are. If you want to take it up with RG3, take it up. If you have a disagreement with him, take it up. If you don't like what he said about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, then take it up on the merits, on the substance. But don't insinuate that that black man doesn't know what it's like to be a black man. I'm just being honest. I'd say the same about a Jewish person or a Christian or this or that. Doesn't matter. You're taking a lot of latitude when you start criticizing somebody for who they married. A lot of latitude, and not on the substance of who they married, but on their skin color. This disgusts me. I don't know Ryan Clark. I don't know any of these guys, but it disgusts me. You got something to say? Say it. But not about his wife or her race. And as a matter of fact, not about him and that he married a white woman. So what if he married a white woman? I thought we were supposed to celebrate these things. I don't know anything about Ryan Clark's wife. Maybe he's had more than one. Nor should I. Who cares? It's not a public person. He's the public person. So if RG3 said something that's offensive or offensive to him, then deal with it like a man. But don't go after the guy's wife and his marriages because they're white or they're Asian or whatever the hell they are. It doesn't matter. Or go after a white athlete because his wife is black. Conversely. This, I don't dig. This, I don't like.